Two can play at that game. When skeptics act like religious inquisitors, I call it pathological skepticism. It's wild, man. You see these people who claim to be the champions of logic and reason, but when you really look at what they're doing, it's like they've built their own church. A church of no. They're not actually interested in finding out what's true. They're interested in defending a pre-approved set of beliefs. They treat science not as a method of discovery, but as a finished book of answers. Anything that doesn't fit into their tiny, pre-packaged worldview gets attacked with a kind of religious fervor. It's not about evidence for them, it's about protecting the dogma. These are common behavioral symptoms that block unconventional findings. It's a pattern, a series of tells. It's not about being wrong, we're all wrong sometimes. It's about being unwilling to even look at something that might prove you wrong. It's a psychological defense mechanism dressed up as intellectual rigor. You see it all the time with fringe topics, but it happens in mainstream science too, more than people want to admit. Here are 20 red flags to watch for. Let's pull back the curtain on this thing. Alright, first up, the belief that theories determine phenomena rather than the other way around. This is a fundamental screw-up, a total inversion of how science is supposed to work. A theory is a map, right? It's our best guess to describe the territory. But these pathological skeptics get it backwards. They look at the map, and if the territory, the actual observable phenomenon, doesn't match, they declare the territory is wrong. That can't happen because it violates the laws of physics. As if our current understanding is complete and final. That's not science, it's dogma. Real science is about observing something weird, something that doesn't fit, then trying to figure out if your map needs to be redrawn. Be humble enough to admit your theory might be incomplete or wrong. If someone's first move is to call an observation impossible because their pet theory forbids it, you're not talking to a scientist, you're talking to a priest of the status quo. They've decided what reality is allowed to be, and they'll reject any real-world evidence that contradicts their pre-approved version. It's a complete failure of the scientific method from the starting gate. Here's a classic you see all the time, not just in science but in any argument: moving the goalposts. You know how this goes. You present evidence that meets the skeptic's initial demand. You do the experiment exactly as they asked. You provide the data. And just when you think you've got them, they say, "Oh, well, that's not enough. Now you need to do this." Suddenly the criteria change. The bar gets raised, then raised again. It's a never-ending game of whack-a-mole where you can never ever win, because the rules are constantly being rewritten to ensure your failure. It's a dishonest tactic, plain and simple. It's a way to avoid conceding a point or admitting an unconventional idea might have some merit. For example, you show a statistically significant result from a controlled study. First, they say the sample size is too small. You redo it with a bigger sample. Then, they want independent replication. You get that done. Then, the effect is still too small to be meaningful. Or, there could be some hidden variable you didn't account for. It never ends. The real goal isn't to find the truth, it's to exhaust you until you give up. This one is huge. Herd following, and the denial that you ever changed your opinion. It's this weird collective amnesia. An idea is considered completely insane, crackpot pseudoscience for decades. Anyone who touches it gets ridiculed, their career gets nuked. Eventually the dam breaks, the idea becomes accepted, it becomes the new consensus. And here's the crazy part, the very same people who were leading the charge of ridicule, the most vicious in their attacks, just seamlessly switch sides. They act like they were open to it all along. Well, of course, now that there's proper evidence, they completely deny their previous hostile position. Chapter 4. This one drives me crazy. The belief that science is guided by consensus, not evidence. You hear it all the time. 97% of scientists agree, as if that's the end of the discussion. Look, consensus can be a useful indicator. If a lot of smart people who've studied something agree on it, you should probably pay attention. But it is not, and has never been, a substitute for evidence. It's an appeal to authority, or in this case, an appeal to the majority. It's a political tool, not a scientific one. Almost every single major breakthrough, every paradigm shift, started with one person or a small group going directly against the consensus. Copernicus, Galileo, Einstein. These guys weren't polling their colleagues, they were looking at the data, looking at the sky, doing the math and saying, "Hey, I think the herd is wrong." If science were truly guided by consensus, we'd still think the sun revolves around the earth. A real scientist's loyalty is to the evidence, even if it's lonely. even if it makes them unpopular, and even if the entire world thinks they're nuts. This is when the skepticism becomes a tool for the establishment. It's a total blindness to institutional suppression, and what some have called the expulsion of heretics. You hear stories about secret petitions, promotions denied, funding drying up after a few phone calls. The history of science is one long, continuous story of ideas that were once considered heresy, madness, and pseudoscience eventually becoming foundational, accepted facts. It's the denial that science, as an institution, has ever made serious, systemic mistakes, creating a sanitized, heroic narrative that denies the messy, political, human reality. It's pure circular reasoning. We won't look because it's never been found. It's never found because we won't look. The pathological skeptic's default move is often to accuse the opponent of fraud. They confuse rigorous critique with schoolyard bullying. This is complete bullshit. Ridicule is not a scientific tool. It's the claim of pure objectivity, the denial that one's own beliefs and biases affect perception. Outro. So, what's the takeaway here? Is it that we should just believe everything? Absolutely not. The world is full of grifters and nonsense. A healthy dose of skepticism is your best defense. But the key word there is healthy. This isn't healthy skepticism. It's a pathology, a perversion of the scientific spirit, a mindset that fears the unknown instead of being drawn to it, building walls, not opening doors, protecting a belief system, not challenging it. Be skeptical of everyone, including the skeptics. Especially the loudest, the most certain, the most hostile. Be skeptical of the consensus. Be skeptical of the authorities. Most importantly, be skeptical of your own beliefs. Your goal shouldn't be to win arguments or to prove you're right. Your goal should be getting closer to what's actually true, even if that truth is uncomfortable, inconvenient, or completely shatters your worldview. That's the real adventure. Question fairly. Investigate openly. Don't let reflexive dismissal block discovery. Don't let fear of being wrong stop you from exploring that you might be. The universe is big, weird, wonderful. Amazing discoveries are probably still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with an open mind and the courage to look. Don't let the pathological gatekeepers scare you away. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, stay curious.